Hello, my friends, and welcome back to part number 4 of this presentation on the 2025 Men's Code of Points. I've been receiving a lot of feedback from you, and you were marking a lot of mistakes that have been made during the part 1 and 2. Some of them were corrected on part 3, and I was noted by a friend of mine that the video it's cut after example number 3 on rings, and it jumped all the way to p-bars. So this part is mostly for making up for the missing mistakes, missing examples on the rings, the whole part of bolt, and the start of the p-bars. Because there were things that are very interesting and useful that you need to know. So we're gonna get started, and remember to see also the video on part 3, because some of the mistakes that were made in the calculation of the scores on p-bars, they are corrected on part 3. So please, my apologies. This is a project that I've made on my own. Maybe I did it too quick without checking out every detail, but I'm gonna make as many parts as are necessary. Whenever you find a mistake, I hope this is gonna be the last part, and if I make another part, then it's gonna be for updates from the MTC. Okay, for the meantime, let's move on to example number 3 on the rings. Thank you. So I think this is the last example we have on rings. Again, another gymnast from China that does a lot of difficult stuff. He starts with a Balandine to inverted cross, which is an upgrade to G. It's been upgraded to G. Then he goes down and does another Balandine, the Balandine 3, which has kept its value to an E, both from group 2. Group 3 element, E, was backup price to swallow. Now he has to separate the sequence. He does a dislocate to a giant swing backward, which is a valid element. Then an O'Neill, which is a double layout, a D element from group 1. Then an Assyrian to cross from group 2. Jonathan, Honma to cross. Jonathan keeps a C because no handstand was followed, and the Honma to cross is a D. Now he does a giant swing forward for a C, giant through handstand, and a double dismount in layout position, but no stick bonus. So let's see the analysis of this routine, this very difficult routine. We have the first element. We saw it was a G. We already talked about that. It's an upgrade. Then the other Balandine, an E from group 2. Then an E. And let's start checking about the other final position. The inverted cross has no other position. The support level has no other position, and the swallow doesn't have another end position in the exercise, so this is okay. Then he does the giant swing forward and the O'Neill, both are among the top 8 elements. Then we have the Assyrian to cross and a Honma to cross, so these are 2 crosses from different groups, so they are okay. We leave out the Jonathan, and we have to leave out giant swing and B giant, and the dismount, which is an F that didn't have a stick landing. So in this case, there are many high difficulty elements: 1G, 1F, 2 E's, 3 D's, and 1 C. So this sums to 3.8. And we have 2.1 element groups because the dismount is an F, so he gets 0.6 on the dismount group. And the start value is 5.9, and no neutral deductions because we were able to have the giant swing among the top 8 elements. So before we move to the next example, I want to point out this skill that was presented by this gymnast, the O'Neill, that is a straight double salto backward to hang. It was an E element on the last code, on 2022 code, and now it's been downgraded to D. And tucked variation, which is the Guksogi, it's still a C. So what the gymnast did in his routine was a D element from group 1, not a very often seen element. And what's also important is that in this code they have eliminated the special repetition for Guksogi type of elements, because all of them, the piked or straight, they were merged into the same box, and the tucked variation was a separate box. So all three are in two boxes. So there's no need to make this a special repetition rule. And you can also see that they are in red, so they are not permitted for the juniors. Okay, so we move to example number 4. Start of the exercise is a backup rise to planche, legs together. It's a D, remember, from group 3. Goes down to an swallow from group 2, also a D. Nakayama, he has already 3 elements from group 2 or 3. He separates them with a Jonathan, a C from group 1, into a backup rise to swallow, an E. Then a backup rise to cross, which is a C from group 3. He shows a Yamawaki into a handstand, so from B goes to a C, and the C for the giant. Then a back giant, which is also a C, and dismount, which is a double tuck with a large step, so he doesn't get the stick bonus. So we're going to see the analysis, how it's going to be. So in this case, we have the backup rise to planche from group 3, the swallow from group 2, and the Nakayama to cross from group 2, separated by a Jonathan, that it's a C. Okay, so all those 3 elements are okay. Then the next 2 elements are from group 3, backup rise to a swallow, that it's okay because the other swallow he has is from group 2, and he also has a cross from group 2, the Nakayama, and he shows a backup rise to cross. So it's a C from group 3, it's okay. Now we have this Yamawaki that it's upgraded to a C. However, we already have 6 elements, so we need to choose from these other 3 elements that are all the same value. We need to choose one to make 7 elements plus the dismount. So in this case, I didn't include the Yamawaki because I think it was more convenient to include the giant, because that was needed as a special requirement and avoided the neutral deduction and the dismount. So in this case, we end up having 2 E's, 3 D's, and 3 C's. All the groups are okay. We have group 1, which is covered by a C. Group 2 and 3, they have D or higher elements, and the dismount is an E, so he gets 0.5 and 2 points in element groups, no stick bonus, no connections on rings also. So his start value is 5.1 in this case. So maybe this routine was not as hard, but we had this case where we needed to decide which of the elements was more convenient for the gymnast. So we move to the next example. Example number 5. This is the last element, the last example. Sorry. And we're going to see what the gymnast chose. He chose an Assyrian into planche. It's a knee. Then he goes into the Bangelder from planche to swallow. Then a backward rise to inverted cross, a knee. Then Jonathan into a backward rise to planche, a Yamawaki. Remember, it's a B. Backward rise to swallow, it's a knee. A Nakayama, which is a D. Then he has the special requirement, the giant forward, and he does a double layout with a full turn as a dismount with a step, so that means no stick bonus. So we're going to have to see what we do with this routine. He had a lot of difficult parts, so let's start. He has 3 elements with E value at the start: the Assyrian to planche, then go bounce into a swallow, which is an E. Remember, this element can be an F, which is called the Zanetti, but in order for you to give an F, the back lever has to be held for 2 seconds, and that also means that would be included into the 3 element sequence from group 2 or 3. So in this case, it's only an E. Well, it's only, I think, only an E, but it's a high value element. And then the sequence is separated by a Jonathan, a C from group 1. Then he has a backward rise to planche from group 3. We have another planche at the start, but from group 2. Then he does a Yamawaki, which is a B and will not enter into the top 8 elements. Then a backward rise to swallow from group 3, the swallow, and we have the Bangelder, which was from group 2. Then he does a Nakayama. He doesn't have another cross as a final position. Then he has the giant and the dismount, which is D value. So when we count all the top 8 elements, we can see that in this case the giant cannot be included. We have to leave out the giant and a Yamawaki. And you may say, why didn't we count out the Jonathan? In this case, I think it's more convenient for the gymnast to keep the Jonathan instead of the giant, because this element is used to separate the 2 sequences. After the Jonathan, if he has 3 elements from group 2 and 3. So all of these 3 elements would be lost if we don't count the Jonathan. Because remember, the Yamawaki, it's a B, so it will not be among the top 8 elements. So it's not, in this case, this Yamawaki is not useful to separate these elements from group 2 or 3. So in this case, we include this C Jonathan and do not include the giant. So that means a neutral deduction for not having the special requirement of the giant. So we have 4 E's, 3 D's, and 1 C. 1.9 of the element groups, because the dismount is a D. And group 2 and 3, they are covered by D or higher elements. So the start value is 5.4, and the neutral deduction in this case will be applied. So we're going to start with the bolt, not very long. I don't want to talk much about bolt. Just mention the changes because the execution is practically the same, and recognition of the bolts, it's not easy, but depends on the incomplete twists or the falls. The big changes are the element groups. We now have 5 groups, and they're different from this cycle, I should say. Element group 1 is single salto bolts with complex twists. This includes Sukahara and handspring bolts with one salto and many twists. For example, an Acopian, which is a Sukahara with double twist, or a Luyun, that is a handspring with a salto forward straight with 1.5 twists. They are included under this group. Element group 2 is the handspring salto bolts with or without simple twists and all the double salto forwards. The handsprings, they are the handsprings, the simple handspring and handsprings that include twists without a salto. For example, handspring full without a salto, and all the double saltos like the Roche or the Dragulescu. Element group 3, it's the handspring sideways or round off, and Sukahara bolts with or without simple twist and all double salto. So that includes the round off with twists, as it was in group 2 with the handsprings, and all the Sukahara bolts like the Rise 1 and the Luyu Fu, which is the Sukahara double back piked. These are the kind of bolts that are included in group 3. Element group 4 are the round of entry and single bolts with complex twists. This is similar to element group 1, but including the round of entry or the Yurchenko bolts. For example, the equivalent to an Acopian, remember the Acopian was the Sukahara double twist, and the Yurchenko back layout with double twist would be the similar bolt, but would be included in group 4. And the last element group is element group 5, round of entry bolts with or without simple twists and all double salto forward and backwards. For example, we talked about the Luyu Fu. It's a Sukahara double piked, and the equivalent, it's a round off or Yurchenko double pike, which is, I think it's called Yang Wei. So those are similar bolts, but the last one is included in group 5. And but what they mean by round off entry bolts with or without simple twists, that means round off back handspring. That's I think it's the most simple of the bolts in this group, or with half turn or full turn. We're going to see the table later, and that's the description of the groups. What's different? If you remember the Cherbo entry bolts, these are not included anymore in the code. We only have the Yurchenko, which is a round off back handspring, and the Nimov entry, that is a round off with a half twist. But the Cherbo, which was 3/4 or full turn after the round off, they are no longer included. Those were some saltos that were not presented many years. During the last 10 years, maybe only one gymnast, the gymnast from Japan, did one variation. But the MTC decided not to include them anymore. At least they are not including them in the draft version. That we are going to have to wait for the final version to see what's included or not. The bolt execution is also kind of not changed, but it's the same as this cycle. But if you remember, the phases of the bolt changed a bit. We have the first flight phase, which is like it's been all the time, from the springboard to the support with 2 hands on the table. They have included now a support phase, which is the momentary contact of the hands when the handstand position is performed. The second flight phase, which is including the push-up from the table to the point of preparation for the landing. So this is the part in the air. The landing phase is from the preparation for landing to the final standing position, and the EURI has to take the deductions phase by phase. That means you must be able to tell how many tenths or how many points did you deducted on the support phase, or in the first phase, or in the landing phase. On World Championships and official competitions, Olympic Games and World Cups, the judges are required to use a special screen where they can input their deductions by phase. The Swiss timing and most of the big companies, they are already using this. For example, in the first flight, you can deduct for bent ankles, bent knees, legs apart. On the support phase, the body position or the deviation from the perfect handstand position. The second flight phase, as we know, we can deduct for the feet, bent ankles, or bent knees, legs apart, the height, the body position, legs apart or bent knees, as we said, and the landing phase, the preparation of landing, the steps or hops, if there's a fall, the incomplete twists, and the low landings, which was introduced this cycle. So continuing with the execution, if we see the table for the execution deductions, we see it's almost the same, and only two new items have been included. Angular deviation during the support phase. That's a handspring versus a sukahara. Some gymnasts, they don't position their handstand defining a round off or a handspring. So it's going to be a small deduction if the deviation is less than 30 degrees, and if it's between 31 and 60 degrees, then it's a medium error. There is no 0.5 deduction in this case, because a 0.5 deduction would mean in recognition of a different bolt. Low landing, which is we were talking in the last slide, when the hips are below the knees on the landing, then that's a large deduction, as we saw on floor, and this deduction is also possible on all dismounts, and on high bar and P bars and rings. Can be possible to take these deductions. About the difficulty, all bolts were downgraded 0.4. That's the most important point. And the rest of the criteria for the bolt has not changed. The DURI deductions are the same. For example, if the gymnast performs zero bolt, or they do a same group in the finals, or they take more runs than the permitted ones, those kind of deductions, they are the same as we know from the 2022 code. So we're going to end the bolt with the table, watching the table of the bolts, and this is the current table, and you can see, for example, some of the bolts we've been talking. The Acopian, which is a double twist from Sukahara, used to be a 5.2, now it's only a 4.8, and the Driggs, which was very popular, is now 4.8, and it was a 5.2 bolt. The same has happened to other bolts, like the Dragulescu, which was a 6.5 bolt. It's now a 5.2 bolt, and you can see, if you can check the table, it's all the bolts have been decreased by 0.4, and no cherbo bolts. I think that's the most important part on the bolt. So we are going to end bolt here, and quickly move to the p-bars. The p-bars, we're going to start again with the element groups. There's a big change here. Element group 1 is elements starting in the upper arm position. So this is what we know as group 2 now. It's being moved to group 1. That's I said in the first part of the presentation that this was in order to make a uniformity with the element group that can be covered with an A part or any value part. So we consider the MTC considered that this on p-bars was the group that had to be the least required difficulty. So they changed the number. So it's gonna require some practice at first, not to confuse the group 1 elements and write down as a group 2, because group 2 now is the support elements from through support on 2 bars. This used to be group 1. This includes like the diamidobs, the studs, and any support element like the Healy. Group 3 remains the same, the giant swing, the long swings in hand on 1 or 2 bars, and the under swings, which are the pitches. And element group 4 is the dismounts. So these are the last 2 groups. They are the same. P-bars execution has also some change that's going to be that will need practice from us in the start. Backswings in support or upper arm hang then do not lead to at least a value part, but simply reverse direction and swing back down to a lower hang or support position will be deducted. And they mention a lot of examples which are the same that we know. For example, going from a kip and then lay away to a moi. That's 0.3 deduction. This is valid for this cycle. But what's new is that after a swing to handstand that has to be held 2 seconds, the next element must continue in the same direction. Half turn, Gadsden or Healy, any element that goes into the forward directions. So it is not permitted from a swing to handstand to do a layaway, let's say, to an upper arm, or just to a swing in support, or to a giant. That means swing to handstand, even if the gymnast holds the 2 seconds as required, and he goes back into a front upright, into a moi, or into a studs, that would be a 0.3 deduction. Something very important is that this rule is made only for the swing to handstand. For example, if the gymnast performs a press to handstand, he can go to a hang or to a support or to a upper arm position. There is no problem because it is not included in this rule. Also, for example, if the gymnast performs a giant swing, that's from the giant swing he can go down to a front upright and receive no deduction. We're going to see a video for you to understand it better. Another thing that I want to remark is something that is not new, but it was introduced during this cycle. For elements that are defined as finishing in a handstand, such as diamidob, the gymnast must clearly show the handstand position with straight arms before proceeding into elements such as long hang or upper arm support. Otherwise, the element may not be recognized. I think this was in the last newsletter from last year, and what the committee wants is that all these elements like the studs or the giant or the diamidob finishes with a controlled handstand. Some gymnasts end in a bent arm handstand, not controlled, and they continue. So in these cases, the element may not be recognized. So we're going to see this video about the swing to handstand. Hope this makes clear what the committee wants. We see this gymnast that starts with a keep to L, then press to handstand, and then he bails down to a Moi. This is okay because he has not done a swing to handstand but a press to handstand. Now he goes into a swing to handstand and does a half turn, so it's okay because he continued in the same direction. Now he can go to a front upright, another swing to handstand. Let's see what he does, and he's going to support. So this is a deduction. He goes to the dismount. He had to do a half turn or another element that continued the same direction. Here's more examples. In this case, the first handstand goes into the same direction to a Healy. It's okay. Another swing to handstand that swings back down, 0.3. So we have one deduction in this case. Giant with full turn, giant, and then a tipple to a pirouette. And we said that this kind of elements in this sequence, no swings to handstand, so everything is okay. We have a babsard into a kip, and then a swing to handstand, okay, because he included a half turn. Let's see what continues. Then a Diamidov, lack of control, but we're not talking about that, so the handstand is okay. So front upright to handstand, and then he goes down, another 0.3 deduction. The Stutz, he doesn't need to change direction. This is okay because it's not a swing to handstand. And we have the group 1 element, front upright to handstand, and then he swings down again to his dismount. So this gymnast in his routine had 3 times a medium deduction. So this is something that we need to watch out for when we do the execution on the P-bars. So talking about the execution, the lack of extension at horizontal or uncontrolled regrasping after saltos. This is the same, but they joined both the deductions into a single line, but it's the same. I mean, you can take 2 deductions on this error. So we're going to start with the difficult